The weeks that followed brought unexpected changes to Patricia's life. She continued attending the diversity workshops, and each session peeled back another layer of her unconscious biases. She learned about microaggressions, about the school-to-prison pipeline, about housing discrimination that had created the very neighborhood boundaries she had been so protective of. One workshop session focused on the history of residential segregation. Patricia learned that the neighborhood she had lived in for 10 years, the one she had been so proud of, had actually been created through redlining and restrictive covenants that had explicitly excluded black families for decades. Her nice neighborhood wasn't naturally white. It had been systematically designed that way through racist policies. This realization hit Patricia hard. She had always thought her neighborhood was special because of the people who chose to live there. She had never considered that some people hadn't been given the choice at all. At the playground, things were shifting too. After witnessing Patricia's apology to Maya, other parents started to examine their own behaviors. Tommy's mother organized a neighborhood potluck specifically to welcome new families, with Dr. Morrison and Maya as the guests of honor. Patricia volunteered to help organize it. She spent hours making phone calls, sending emails, and coordinating with other parents. It was her way of putting action behind her words, of showing that her apology hadn't been empty. The day of the potluck arrived, and nearly 50 families showed up. The playground was transformed with tables of food, balloons, and a banner that read, "Welcome to our community." Maya wore a bright blue dress and stayed close to her mother at first. Still wary of some of the adults, Emma ran up immediately and grabbed Maya's hand. "Come on, I want to show you the face painting station." "My dad set it up?" Maya looked up at her mother, who nodded with a smile. The two girls ran off together, and Dr. Morrison watched them go with relief in her eyes. Patricia approached with a plate of cookies she had baked. "I wanted to thank you again for giving me a chance to make this right." Dr. Morrison accepted the cookies graciously. "You know, Patricia, that day at the playground was one of my worst fears realized. But seeing how you've responded, the work you've been doing, it gives me hope." "I wish I could go back and handle that day differently," Patricia said. "But since I can't, I'm trying to make sure I handle every day going forward better." "That's all any of us can do," Dr. Morrison replied. "Learn and grow." Throughout the afternoon, Patricia noticed small moments that warmed her heart. She saw a white father teaching a group of kids, including several black children, how to throw a football. She watched as an elderly white woman complimented a black mother's natural hair and asked genuine questions about hair care. She observed children of all races playing together without a single thought about their differences. This was what community was supposed to look like. Later, as people were eating, Dr. Morrison stood up and asked for everyone's attention. The crowd quieted down. "I want to thank everyone for this wonderful welcome," she began. "When Maya and I moved here 3 months ago, we were hopeful but cautious. As a black woman who has lived in predominantly white spaces before, I knew there might be challenges." Patricia felt her cheeks burn, knowing she had been one of those challenges. "But what I've seen over the past few weeks has truly moved me," Dr. Morrison continued. "This community has shown that when mistakes are made, they can be acknowledged and learned from. When harm is done, healing is possible. And when we choose to see each other as neighbors and friends rather than strangers, beautiful things can happen." There was warm applause, and Maya beamed up at her mother with pride. "I also want to share something that some of you may not know," Dr. Morrison added. "Starting next month, I'll be overseeing a new community pediatric clinic that will serve families in this area regardless of their ability to pay. It's been a dream of mine for years, and Riverside Hospital has finally approved the funding." The applause grew louder. Patricia felt a mix of emotions. Here was this accomplished, compassionate woman who was literally dedicating her career to helping children, and Patricia had treated her daughter with suspicion and cruelty. The contrast was humbling. After Dr. Morrison sat down, Patricia found herself standing up. She hadn't planned to speak, but something pushed her forward. "I need to say something," Patricia said, her voice shaking slightly. "A few weeks ago I made a terrible mistake at this playground. I treated a child unkindly because of my own biases and prejudices. That child was Maya Morrison, and I owe this community an acknowledgement of that." The crowd grew silent. Emma looked up at her mother with wide eyes. Maya stood next to Dr. Morrison, watching. "I thought I was a good person," Patricia continued. "I thought prejudice was something other people struggled with, not me. But I learned that bias isn't always loud and obvious. Sometimes it's quiet and hidden, buried in assumptions we don't even know we're making." Several parents nodded. Patricia saw recognition in their faces. "Since that day, I've been doing a lot of learning. I've attended workshops on diversity and inclusion. I've read books about racism and implicit bias. But most importantly, I've been practicing seeing people, really seeing them, beyond my first assumptions." Patricia's voice grew stronger. "I'm sharing this not to center my own journey or to make myself feel better. I'm sharing it because I know I'm not the only person in this community who has work to do. If my mistake and my learning process can help even one person examine their own biases before they hurt someone, then maybe something good can come from something bad." When Patricia sat down, there was a moment of silence, then Tommy's mother started clapping. Others joined in, and soon the whole crowd was applauding. It wasn't the comfortable applause of celebration, but the thoughtful applause of recognition and respect. After the potluck ended and families were cleaning up, a woman Patricia had never met before approached her. "Thank you for what you said today. Last week, I crossed the street when I saw a black teenager walking toward me. I didn't even think about it, I just did it. But after hearing your story, I realized I need to examine why I did that." Patricia nodded. "It's uncomfortable work, but it's important work." Over the following months, Patricia's transformation continued. She joined the diversity committee at Emma's school and pushed for more inclusive curriculum. She started shopping at black-owned businesses in the city. She attended a protest against police brutality and listened to the speakers without defensiveness. Most importantly, she built a genuine friendship with Dr. Morrison. They started meeting for coffee every Wednesday morning, having conversations that challenged Patricia's perspectives and broadened her understanding of the world. One Wednesday, Dr. Morrison brought up something that had been on her mind. "You know, Patricia, I've been thinking about starting a parent group focused on raising anti-racist children. Would you be interested in co-leading it with me?" Patricia was taken aback. "Are you sure? I'm still learning so much myself." "That's exactly why you'd be a good co-leader," Dr. Morrison explained. "You understand what it's like to recognize your biases and work to change them. You can speak to other white parents from that perspective in ways I can't." Patricia felt honored and terrified in equal measure. "I would love to, but I'm scared of saying the wrong thing or making mistakes." "You will make mistakes," Dr. Morrison said with a slight smile. "We all do. The key is being humble enough to acknowledge them and learn from them. You've already shown you can do that." The parent group started small, meeting in Dr. Morrison's living room with just 5 families. But it grew quickly. Within 6 months, they had 20 families regularly attending, and they had moved the meetings to the community center. At the meetings, Dr. Morrison would share experiences and perspectives, while Patricia helped facilitate difficult conversations among white parents who were wrestling with their own biases. They read books together, watched documentaries, and practiced having hard conversations with their children about race. Emma and Maya became inseparable best friends. They had sleepovers at each other's houses, did homework together, and defended each other fiercely on the playground. When a new kid at school made a racist comment to Maya, Emma immediately stood up for her friend and reported it to the teacher. Watching her daughter navigate friendship across racial lines with such ease and naturalness, Patricia felt both pride and sadness. Pride that Emma was growing up with a worldview much healthier than her own had been. Sadness that it had taken a painful incident for Patricia to learn what her daughter had seemed to understand instinctively. One day, about a year after the playground incident, Patricia was shopping at the grocery store when she saw a young black man in a hoodie walking down the aisle toward her. Her first instinct was the old one, clutch her purse tighter. Be on guard, but this time, Patricia recognized the thought for what it was. A bias, a stereotype. A harmful assumption based on nothing but race and clothing. Instead of following that instinct, Patricia smiled at the young man and said hello. He smiled back and said hello in return, then walked past her to grab cereal from the shelf. It was a small moment, barely worth noting. But to Patricia, it represented real change. The automatic bias was still there, probably would always be. The next morning, Patricia woke up exhausted. She had barely slept, her mind churning with memories of the previous day. Emma was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal when Patricia came downstairs. "Mom, can we go to the playground today?" Emma asked hopefully. Patricia felt her stomach twist. "Maybe not today, honey. We have other things to do." Emma's face fell. "But I want to see if Maya is there. I want to tell her I'm sorry you were mean to her." The words hit Patricia like a physical blow. Her own 8-year-old daughter understood what Patricia had been trying to deny to herself all night. She had been mean, unreasonably and unfairly mean, to a child who had done nothing wrong. Patricia forced herself to eat breakfast, but everything tasted like ash in her mouth. She dropped Emma off at school, noting with discomfort that several other mothers who usually waved hello turned away when they saw her. Word had clearly spread about what happened at the playground when Patricia got home. She tried to distract herself with housework, but it was useless. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Maya's frightened face and heard Dr. Morrison's calm, devastating words. "She's a child who deserves kindness. And you're an adult who should know better." Around noon, Patricia made a decision. She got in her car and drove to Riverside Hospital. It took her 3 tries to work up the courage to actually go inside. At the information desk, she asked for Dr. Angela Morrison. "Do you have an appointment?" The receptionist asked. "No, I don't," Patricia admitted. "But it's important. Could you tell her Patricia Whitmore is here to see her?" The receptionist made a call, and Patricia waited nervously, half expecting to be turned away. After a few minutes, the receptionist hung up and looked surprised. "Dr. Morrison will see you. Take the elevator to the 3rd floor, pediatrics wing. Someone will meet you there." Patricia's hands shook as she rode the elevator up. When the doors opened, a nurse directed her to a small office at the end of the hall. The door was open, and Dr. Morrison sat behind her desk, still wearing her white coat. She looked up when Patricia approached. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said neutrally. "I have 15 minutes before my next patient. What can I do for you?" Patricia stepped into the office, clutching her purse like a shield. "I wanted to apologize for yesterday, for what I said to Maya." Dr. Morrison leaned back in her chair, studying Patricia's face. "Please sit down." Patricia sat, feeling like a child called to the principal's office. "I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about how scared Maya looked and about what I said to her. I was wrong." "You were," Dr. Morrison agreed simply. "But I appreciate you coming here to say so. Many people wouldn't have done that." Patricia felt tears starting to form. "I don't know what came over me. I saw Maya alone on the swings and I just assumed the worst. I didn't stop to think about how my words would hurt her." "Why did you assume the worst?" Dr. Morrison asked. "Other children play at that playground without their parents right beside them. What made Maya different?" Patricia opened her mouth, then closed it. She had been about to say it wasn't about race again, but she knew that would be a lie. The truth was uncomfortable and shameful, but Dr. Morrison's steady gaze demanded honesty. "Because she's black," Patricia finally whispered. "And because I've lived in that neighborhood for so long, I've gotten used to it being a certain way. When I saw Maya, I saw someone who didn't fit the picture in my head of who belongs there. And instead of examining why I felt that way, I acted on it." Dr. Morrison nodded slowly. "Thank you for being honest. That's a difficult thing to admit, especially to someone you've hurt." "I've never thought of myself as prejudiced," Patricia continued, the words tumbling out now. "I have black coworkers. I voted for Obama. I would never use slurs or join hate groups. But yesterday showed me that prejudice isn't always that obvious. Sometimes it's in the assumptions we make, the way we treat people differently without even realizing we're doing it. That's called implicit bias, Dr. Morrison said. And you're right, it's often harder to recognize than overt racism because it feels justified in the moment. You convinced yourself you were concerned about safety and community standards. But the truth is, those concerns only activated because Maya didn't match your unconscious picture of who belongs in your neighborhood. Patricia wiped her eyes. My daughter Emma asked me why I was mean to her friend. She didn't understand because in her world, Maya was just another nice kid to play with. Emma didn't see race, she just saw a friend. And I ruined that with my fear and prejudice. Children learn bias from adults, Dr. Morrison said gently. Emma's innocent perspective is a gift. The question is, what will you teach her moving forward? I want to do better, Patricia said earnestly. I want to apologize to Maya too, if she's willing to hear it. And I want to make sure Emma doesn't grow up with the same blind spots I have. Dr. Morrison considered this. Maya was very upset yesterday. She cried most of the evening. She asked me why that lady hated her when she didn't do anything wrong. Patricia felt physically sick. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt her. I reacted badly. Here's what I'll do, Dr. Morrison said. I'll talk to Maya and see if she's ready to hear an apology from you. But Mrs. Whitmore, you need to understand something. An apology is a good first step, but it's not enough. The real work happens in how you change your behavior going forward. One apology doesn't undo years of unconscious bias. I understand, Patricia said. I'm willing to do that work. I have to. Dr. Morrison pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. Here's the number for a diversity and inclusion counselor I know. She offers workshops for people who want to examine their biases and learn to do better. I think it would be good for you. Patricia took the card gratefully. Thank you, really. Don't thank me yet, Dr. Morrison said, but there was a hint of warmth in her voice now. Thank me by actually doing the work and being better to the next Maya who comes into your life. Patricia left the hospital feeling emotionally drained, but also, strangely, a little bit lighter. She had faced her own ugliness and survived it. The hard part would be following through on her promises. That afternoon, Patricia called the counselor whose number Dr. Morrison had given her. To her surprise, there was a workshop starting that very week. Patricia signed up immediately. Over the next few days, Patricia started to see things she had never noticed before. She watched how sales clerks followed black customers more closely in stores. She noticed how her own voice changed when she spoke to the black postal worker versus the white one, becoming slightly more clipped and formal. She realized she clutched her purse tighter when passing black men on the street. Each realization was uncomfortable. But Patricia forced herself not to look away. This was the work Dr. Morrison had talked about. The real work of change. The diversity workshop was harder than Patricia expected. She was one of only 5 white participants, and the facilitator didn't let anyone off easy. They watched videos of people recounting experiences of racism, discussed case studies, and did exercises that forced participants to confront their own biases. During one exercise, Patricia had to list assumptions she had made about people based on their race. Writing them down made them stark and undeniable. She had assumed black teenagers in hoodies were dangerous. She had assumed a black doctor was a nurse. She had assumed a well-dressed black man in her neighborhood was lost or didn't belong there. These assumptions don't make you a monster, the facilitator explained. They make you a product of a society that has taught you these things, often subtly, your entire life. But now that you're aware of them, you have a responsibility to do better. Patricia threw herself into the workshop with an intensity that surprised even herself. She read the recommended books, watched the documentaries, and practiced the mindfulness exercises designed to help interrupt automatic bias thoughts at home. She started having conversations with Emma about race, diversity, and treating everyone with respect. Emma, with a child's clarity, asked questions Patricia had never considered. If Maya's mom is a doctor, why did you think Maya was dangerous? Why does skin color matter for who lives where? Patricia didn't have good answers for many of these questions, but she was learning to say, I don't know, and I need to do better. Instead of making excuses, a week after her hospital visit, Patricia received a call from Dr. Morrison. Maya has agreed to hear your apology. We'll be at the playground tomorrow at 4:30. If you'd like to come, you can. Patricia's heart raced. I'll be there. Thank you for this chance. The next afternoon, Patricia drove to the playground with Emma. Her daughter was excited, chattering about seeing Maya again. Patricia's palms were sweaty on the steering wheel when they arrived. Maya was on the swings again, and Dr. Morrison stood nearby, watching. Patricia took a deep breath and walked over with Emma. Hi, Maya, Emma called out, running ahead. I missed you. Maya looked uncertain but smiled slightly. Hi, Emma. Patricia approached more slowly. Maya, Dr. Morrison, thank you for meeting with us. Dr. Morrison nodded but said nothing, letting Patricia speak. Patricia knelt down so she was at Maya's eye level. The little girl watched her warily. Maya, I want to apologize to you. Last week I was very wrong in how I spoke to you. I was mean and unfair, and I scared you. That was not okay. The afternoon sun beat down on Riverside Park as children ran across the playground, their laughter filling the warm summer air. 7-year-old Maya sat alone on the swings, gently pushing herself back and forth while watching the other kids play. Her braided hair was tied with colorful beads that clicked softly as she moved. She wore her favorite yellow dress with white flowers. The one her mother had bought her for doing well in school. Maya had been coming to this playground for 3 months now, ever since her mother got the new job that brought them to this neighborhood. She loved the tall slide and the spinning roundabout, but most of all, she loved the swings. They made her feel like she was flying across the playground. A woman named Patricia stood near the benches, scrolling through her phone while keeping one eye on her daughter Emma. Patricia was dressed in expensive workout clothes, her blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She had lived in this neighborhood for 10 years and knew almost everyone who came to the park. At least she thought she did. Emma, who was 8 years old, ran up to her mother with flushed cheeks. Mom, can I go play on the swings? Patricia glanced up from her phone and immediately noticed Maya on the swings. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she looked the young girl up and down. Maybe we should go to the other side of the playground, sweetheart. Those swings look occupied. Emma looked confused. But Mom, there are 4 swings. Only one person is using them. Patricia grabbed her daughter's hand a bit too firmly. I said no, Emma. Come on, let's go play on the slide instead. Maya noticed the interaction and felt a strange heaviness in her chest. She had seen that look before, the way some people's faces changed when they saw her. Her mother had told her that some people judged others by the color of their skin, but Maya had hoped this new neighborhood would be different. She continued swinging, trying to ignore the uncomfortable feeling. A few minutes later, a small boy with red hair ran up to the swings and took the one next to Maya. He gave her a big smile. Hi, I'm Tommy. Want to see who can swing higher? Maya's face lit up. Okay, I'm Maya. The 2 children began pumping their legs, trying to swing higher and higher. Their giggles echoed across the playground. Tommy's mother, a kind-looking woman in jeans and a simple t-shirt, waved at both children from a nearby bench. Patricia watched this scene with growing irritation. She leaned toward another mother standing nearby, a woman she sometimes chatted with at the playground. Do you know that girl? Patricia asked, nodding toward Maya. The other mother shrugged. No, I haven't seen her before. Why? Patricia lowered her voice. I just wonder what kind of family lets their child come to the playground unsupervised. She's been here alone for at least 20 minutes. The other mother looked over at Maya, who was now laughing with Tommy. She seems like a sweet kid. Maybe her parent is just running late. Patricia made a dismissive sound. In this neighborhood? I don't think she belongs here. This is a safe, family-oriented community. We should know who's bringing their children here. The other mother looked uncomfortable and excused herself, walking toward her own child. Patricia stood alone, her jaw tight as she watched Maya and Tommy play together. After about 10 more minutes, Emma ran back to her mother. "Mom, I'm thirsty. Can I have some water?" Patricia pulled a water bottle from her designer bag and handed it to Emma. As her daughter drank, Patricia made a decision. She walked purposefully toward the swings where Maya and Tommy were still playing. "Excuse me," Patricia said sharply, looking directly at Maya. "Where are your parents?" Maya stopped swinging, her smile fading. "My mom is at work. She picked me up soon." Patricia crossed her arms. "So you're here completely alone? How did you get here?" "I walked from our house," Maya said quietly, pointing toward the street beyond the playground. "We live just over there. My mom said I could come to the park after school if I'm careful." Patricia's expression hardened. "How old are you?" 7? 7 years old, walking around alone? Unbelievable." Patricia shook her head dramatically. This is exactly the kind of thing that brings down a neighborhood. Parents who don't supervise their children properly. Tommy had stopped swinging too and looked confused. "But my mom lets me walk to the park alone and I'm only 8. Patricia ignored him. "Little girl, I think you should go home. This playground is for children whose parents are present to watch them." Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes. "But the park is for everyone. My mom said so." "Your mother doesn't make the rules here," Patricia snapped. "I've lived in this neighborhood for a decade. We have standards. Now go home before I call someone." Maya climbed off the swing, her hands shaking. She had never been spoken to like this by an adult before. Tommy's mother had noticed the commotion and walked over quickly. "Is everything okay here?" Tommy's mother asked. Patricia turned to her with a tight smile. "I'm just addressing a safety concern. This child has been here unsupervised for quite some time." Tommy's mother looked at Maya with kind eyes. "Sweetie, is your home nearby?" Maya nodded, wiping her eyes. "Yes, ma'am." "Just down the street. And your mother knows you're here?" "Yes, ma'am. I come here every day after school." "She picks me up at 5 o'clock?" Tommy's mother checked her watch. It was 4:30. She turned to Patricia. "It sounds like her mother will be here soon." "I don't see the problem." Patricia's face flushed red. "The problem is that we don't know this family. We don't know anything about them. For all we know, she could be casing houses in the neighborhood." Tommy's mother's eyes widened in shock. "She's a 7-year-old child playing on a swing. What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting," Patricia said coldly, "that certain people don't belong in certain neighborhoods. And I'm well within my rights to be concerned about suspicious activity." Maya started crying openly now. Several other parents had gathered around, watching the scene unfold. Some looked uncomfortable, while others seemed supportive of Patricia's stance. One father spoke up. "Come on, Patricia. This is too much. She's just a kid." But Patricia wouldn't back down. If her mother cared about her, she'd be here. Instead, she lets her child run wild in other people's neighborhoods. It's irresponsible and frankly suspicious. Just then, a sleek black car pulled into the parking lot near the playground. The door opened, and a woman in a sharp business suit stepped out. She was tall, elegant, and moved with confidence as she walked toward the playground. Her skin was the same rich brown as Maya's, and when Maya saw her, she ran toward her mother with relief. "Mom!" Maya cried, throwing her arms around the woman. The woman knelt down immediately, concern etched on her face. "Baby, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" Through her tears, Maya pointed at Patricia. "That lady was mean to me. She said I don't belong here and told me to go home." The woman stood up slowly, her eyes moving to Patricia. For a moment there was complete silence on the playground. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried an unmistakable authority. "I'm Dr. Angela Morrison." "And you are?" Patricia's confident demeanor faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "I'm Patricia Whitmore. I live in this neighborhood, and I was concerned about an unattended child." Dr. Morrison kept her gaze steady. "My daughter is not unattended. I give her permission to come to this public playground after school. I work 3 blocks away and pick her up every single day at 5 o'clock. We'd been doing this for 3 months without any issues. Patricia lifted her chin. Well, I haven't seen you before. How was I supposed to know? You could have asked politely instead of frightening a child, Dr. Morrison replied. You could have waited the 15 minutes until I arrived. You could have done many things that didn't involve telling my daughter she doesn't belong in a public space. The other parents watched this exchange with varying expressions. Some nodded in agreement with Dr. Morrison, while others looked away uncomfortably. Patricia felt cornered. I was just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. You can never be too careful these days. Safe from what, exactly? Dr. Morrison asked, her voice taking on an edge. Safe from a 7-year-old girl on a swing? Patricia stumbled over her words. That's not what I meant. I just think parents should be more responsible. My daughter walks 3 blocks in broad daylight to a supervised public playground. She's never caused any problems. She plays nicely with other children. The only issue here seems to be your assumptions about who belongs in this neighborhood and who doesn't. Patricia's face grew redder. She could feel the eyes of the other parents on her, and she knew how this looked. But pride wouldn't let her back down completely. I have every right to be concerned about strangers in our community. Strangers? Dr. Morrison repeated. We've lived here for 3 months. My daughter attends Lincoln Elementary, 3 blocks from here. I work as the chief of pediatrics at Riverside Hospital. We pay our taxes, we follow the rules, and we have every right to use public facilities. The only reason we're strangers to you is because you've chosen not to welcome us. The crowd had grown larger now, with more parents stopping to watch. Emma stood behind her mother, looking embarrassed and confused. Tommy's mother stepped forward in support of Dr. Morrison. I've seen Maya here many times, Tommy's mother said. She's always been polite and kind to the other children. My son Tommy plays with her often. Another parent added, my daughter mentioned a new friend name.